Alrighty, people, it might be Christmas Eve, but that is not enough to stop the Nintendo Switch 2 rumor and hype train. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games, and today we have two rumors to discuss. The first of which being a rumor for the reveal date of the Nintendo Switch 2, what day in January we could expect to see this thing, but also another rumor suggesting that the Switch 2 launch title will be Metroid Prime 4, as we've been discussing over the past couple of days. So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. If you enjoy Nintendo Switch 2 speculation and theories as we lead up to the reveal of this console and then eventually the launch, I would appreciate you liking the video and subscribing. Let's get into it. I don't know why, but for some reason in my head, I was just like, oh, there's not going to be any more major rumors over the next couple of days. We got Christmas happening here. Let's just calm down a little bit. But no, we have a new post from the Chinese user over on Weibo, I believe it's pronounced, regarding the reveal date for the Switch 2. Now, this user has a bit of a history when it comes to leaking Nintendo stuff. I have not covered them too extensively on this channel. However, in June of this year, before the Nintendo Direct, they actually leaked, or at the very least, very accurately predicted a lot of things that would show up in that presentation, and that's the reason people are really giving them any sense of credibility, right? This is a user on this Chinese social media forum who really doesn't have that much of a track record. However, if they actually had information and leaked this Nintendo Direct, then it is worth giving them a look and seeing what they're saying about the Switch 2. In terms of what we could expect, these posts were not found until after the June Direct. It wasn't until after that we saw the Direct that we were like, oh, these are real leaks. But basically, just reading through this post from Central Leaks back in November, they had some screenshots here that translated everything that they leaked back in June. They've reposted someone saying, if there is a 2D Zelda, I will announce Nintendo is the greatest company of 2024. So they retweeted that, very Puro-like in that sense, and that they were kind of just retweeting things to tease that it would happen. They also reposted this first four figures Samus figure, of course, teasing the Direct. This was all before that Direct happened. They reposted someone saying, I wonder what games will be in the Direct, and I feel that this year's holiday title is Mario Party. So far, these first three, pretty easy to predict, I would say. Zelda wasn't a given, but Mario Party and, of course, Metroid. I mean, Mario Party was a given, and Metroid, like, it just felt like the timing was right to see that game, but granted, everybody was saying that for 7 years when it comes to that game. So those three, they accurately teased or leaked. They said a surprise for DQ 123 remake. This one I don't find all that compelling because Dragon Quest III Remake had already been teased again in May, so it being at the June Direct was kind of a given. The spicy thing here is it being 1 and 2 and 3. We didn't know that at that point, but there had been other rumors, I think from Midori and a couple other places, that that Dragon Quest, the entire original trilogy, would be remade, but they did post it, so to give them credit there. They posted an image of the Ace Attorney Investigations game and said King of Ports. This is the one that, to my knowledge, granted, I'm not like that in tune with the Ace Attorney community, I don't think there was really talk of this. Now, to be fair, there's been a lot of Ace Attorney collections, but I don't think anybody was expecting Investigations, especially not so soon. The Apollo Justice collection just came out in January. This is the one that really surprises me, and I think does give them a level of validity more than the other leaks from this user, because, like I said, at least to my knowledge, no one was really talking about Investigations getting a collection on Switch around this time because the Apollo Justice collection had just come out. So this one, I think this is the one that really makes me kind of believe this user. They also kind of posted this thing about Saga 2. Saga 2 is another one that we weren't really expecting, but I mean, even in this post here, you can kind of see they're linking the dots between some posts, I believe, from developers. So really, this is the main one, this Ace Attorney leak. But to be fair, to their credit, they didn't get anything wrong here. I would say if they were truly, had a source on the Direct, the glaring red flag for me is that Brothership is not mentioned anywhere on their account. They did not mention Brothership, and that was one of the biggest reveals of the Nintendo Direct. So while they didn't post anything that was wrong, they also didn't post everything. So I'm curious how their source knew about only a handful of the things. I'm curious how their source knew 2, or I guess 3 if you count Metroid Prime 4. 3 first-party Nintendo announcements, but then also a Square Enix thing, and then also an Ace Attorney thing, but then yet not Brothership. That's a little weird to me. But that is the reason people are talking about this user and have been giving them some validity and believing into what they say. Back in November, they made another post saying that the Switch 2 would be getting revealed in January for a March launch. I believe this was first posted by Nintendo Prime. He was the first one to kind of dig it up here. This is the post. And there was some some debate on whether or not they actually posted this before or after similar information was posted by a user over on Famiboards. I believe it was Ninspider as well as Nimpagos, I believe. So there was some debate over whether or not this post was basically just stolen information. But they have recently had some activity that is very, very interesting. So reading from this post on the Nintendo Switch 2 subreddit, they said a Chinese Weibo leaker, with their actual name here and a link to their page, who previously leaked the entire June Nintendo Direct, has been counting down using the Fibonacci sequence numbers since December 21st. Based on this pattern, the countdown will end on January 8th. The leaker previously claimed that the Switch 2 could be revealed in January, so this might hint at its announcement date. His Weibo posts are only visible to followers, so you'll need to create an account and follow him to view him. Here's the screenshots of the post over on Imager, and yeah, basically he's counting down using the Fibonacci sequence, which is something I'm not gonna admit that I'm that familiar with, but basically it's a sequence and it counts down these numbers every day, and if he started it on December 21st, it lines up that it will end on January 8th, and this is an account who really only posts about Nintendo stuff. So people are speculating that he has basically created a countdown for when the Switch 2 will be revealed, given that before, I mean, he was saying it would be announced in January and released in March. If he's teasing something for January 8th, it stands to reason that it's about Switch 2, right? Now listen, maybe this is my own personal bias talking because I really want this thing to release in March, and I do think ultimately it kind of still makes sense for it to release in March, even though that is a very quick turnaround. I've talked about that a lot in videos over the past couple of weeks, but I kind of believe this. I don't know why. I like to be very skeptical of these things when there's random posts from random users and stuff like that, right? Usually Puro is the only one who gets my unabashed trust when it comes to leaks, or maybe not even as much recently, but before, certainly. But for some reason, this just feels good. Like I feel good about this, and maybe, like I said, it's just because I want it to be true. But if we're getting this thing announced on January 8th, I mean, that's what, 16 days away, 15 days away from when I'm posting this video. That is so soon. That's 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks away. We could be seeing the Switch 2. It might be even sooner than that, actually, because this is a Chinese user. Maybe based on time zone, it would actually be January 7th. I made a video the other day talking about a post from Necrolipe, where he made a post on Twitter saying it would be a very interesting CES 2025 week with Nintendo's new console already fully announced publicly. CES starts on January 7th, Tuesday, January 7th. This Chinese leaker is saying that it's going to happen on Wednesday, January 8th, but once again, that's time zones. So for America and for most of Europe, that might be January 7th. This is all lining up. It really feels like this is all starting to kind of piece together and connect. We're connecting all these dots here, and I think it's so exciting. And like I said, I really want to believe it, right? I don't know if I 100% believe it, but I'm feeling good about this. And like I said, the idea of a March launch, I know for a lot of people, they're still on that May, June. I know there's been rumors from Samus Hunter and Nate the Hate that it's targeting a June launch. I totally get that. But the thing with basically every leaker and every journalist is that none of them are accurate 100% of the time. So ultimately, you need to take everything with a grain of salt. And hey, maybe it's the selective hearing here, right? Like maybe it's just because I want this thing to be announced as early in January as possible and release in March, which is going against most of what the leakers are still saying. I think a March launch for this console makes the most sense. I've been saying that for a very long time, and when it wasn't announced in 2024, I was starting to give up hope that it would happen in March, and I think, you know, that certainly hurt its chances of releasing in March, right? But when you look at what the potential lineup for 2024 could be, when we're talking about Metroid Prime 4 being a launch title, which we'll get to more of in just a second, if they release it in early March, and it has Metroid Prime 4 and let's say Switch Sports Resort or something, and then 2 weeks later you get Xenoblade X. Not only would it help those first two games, Metroid and whatever Switch Sports, like obviously those are going to sell well whenever this console comes out. It really helps Xenoblade X. Then maybe in April you get like Fire Emblem or Kirby remakes or something, I'm not quite sure. And then in May you get Mario Kart 10. That's a banging first couple of months. And by releasing in March, it just gives them more time to build up a killer lineup of games leading into the holiday season with probably 3D Mario, probably Pokemon Legends EA, and surely more other exciting games. That's, I don't know, man. I really feel like with all the, chatter that we're hearing about an early reveal for the console, like beginning of the new year for the console in January, from people like Christopher Drang. We also had this post from Ninspider on Famiboards last Thursday. I did not talk about this, but when translated, they made this big post in Japanese, just to catch you up, Ninspider, if you don't know, another insider leaker who has been pretty accurate They don't post too often, but what they have posted so far has been reliable. They, when translated, said this: "Hello, I survived a ninja pursuit. For a few reasons, I'm using machine translation to write in Japanese this time. This might be my last post before, quote, that time. Here's some confirmed information. The Pro Controller now has 2 new buttons on the back, and the new Joy-Con back buttons are likely for input rather than release functionality. There's also unconfirmed information, but it's possible that time could be a week after New Year's in Japan. However, it might only be new info about Xenoblade Chronicles X, but he's saying that it's possible that the Switch 2 could be announced a week after New Year's in Japan. Now, New Year's festivities in Japan go until January 3rd, so we're talking second week of the year. We're talking this right here, right? We're talking January 7th through the 10th, somewhere in that range. It really feels like all things are lining up for a, first 10 days of January reveal for this console. And to me, if the console is releasing in May or June, you don't necessarily have that incentive to announce it immediately, right? You could announce it towards the end of January. You could announce it even in early February. But to announce it literally the first business week of the year, that tells me it's coming sooner than people think. So yeah, really, really exciting stuff. I hope this all pans out and we actually see this thing on January 8th. Of course, I'll be covering any other release date and reveal date rumors that pop up over the next 2 weeks. But like I said, I'm feeling good about this one, man. I really do feel good about this date, January 8th in China, so that'd be January 7th in America. That week, either way, maybe not that specific date, but that week, I feel like it's going to be a pretty exciting week for Nintendo fans. But maybe it'll end up like September 19th did in back a couple months ago, where we all thought it was going to be announced on September 19th. We will have to wait and see, but I'm feeling good about that. Now, something interesting was posted by this same Chinese user while I was editing this video, actually, so I figured I would talk about it here as well. They posted an image of Project Cross Zone for the Nintendo 3DS. This is a screenshot from that game. Now, I don't really know what to read into this. I don't know if I believe that Monolith Soft would make a new Project Cross Zone or maybe bring the old Project Cross Zone games to the Nintendo Switch, but I wanted to include it because this is very interesting, and frankly, we may be looking at one of the major Nintendo Switch exclusives in 2025, be that for the current console, be that for the Switch 2. Project Cross Zone, of course, if you're not familiar with it, is a mashup of a bunch of different company IP, ranging from Capcom and Sega, as well as Bandai Namco. They published the game, but it was actually developed by Monolith Soft. Even though Nintendo already owned a majority stake of Monolith Soft at this time, they were making this weird crossover game on the 3DS where you can play as Mega Man and Phoenix Wright, but also Tekken characters are in there. It's a crazy game. And since they posted this image around the same time as this countdown started by them, it is possible that maybe they're counting down to the reveal of a new Project Cross Zone game or like a remaster. Maybe the team that did the Baten Kaitos remasters will do this. I don't necessarily think they're connected, but it is worth mentioning that we might be getting Project Cross Zone in 2025. I just wanted to include it. Probably won't do a full video on it. I have not played Project Cross Zone, but it is on my bucket list of 3DS games to play. Wanted to just throw that in here because it is very interesting. I would be down with a new Project Cross Zone, but very unexpected. And then, yeah, just real quick, I didn't talk about this yesterday, but Samus Hunter had some more words to say about the launch title for the Switch 2. Just kind of teasing it. I mean, they already teased this, but now they're being much more overt about it. They said, "I wish you a happy holiday season. Spend it with those you care about most and relax. That soon after there will be lots of good information to discuss. What am I going to do? I won't be hunting space pirates. For that, I will be waiting until the Switch 2's launch day, but I will play some Metroid Prime pinball to get some practice in and visit some of my favorite space pilot friends to wish them a happy new year." So basically, they're saying Metroid Prime 4 is a launch title, which, to be fair, we've already talked about on this channel pretty extensively in past videos. I've said this before. I used to be very, very against this idea of Prime 4 being a launch title, and while I didn't talk about it in that video, I do think it's a fair point to raise. I've seen a lot of people raise the idea, or at least the reasoning, that they wouldn't have Metroid Prime 4 be the main launch title because Metroid isn't that big in Japan. Saying Metroid Prime 4 should be the launch title is like some Nintendo fanboy stuff, and it's not reality, right? Metroid is not that big of a franchise, and that's kind of where I was. Metroid is not that big of a franchise. It is not a system seller, but over time, I've learned and realized, I've come to this new conclusion that, like, honestly, it doesn't really matter what the launch title is, even in Japan, because ultimately, you're going to have a new Mario Kart or a 3D Mario a month or two later. So by putting Metroid Prime 4 as the launch title, you're ensuring that game sells way more than it would otherwise, even if it was the May game or something, right? Even if it takes whatever spot Mario Kart has, people will already have Mario Kart. Whereas if Metroid Prime 4 is the launch title, pretty much everybody who buys that console is going to buy it. And here's the thing, right? To all the naysayers on Metroid Prime 4 being the launch title, It won't be the only launch title, right? If you're worried about Japan and how that market doesn't really care about Metroid, no one's really saying that Metroid Prime 4 will be the only launch title. You're going to have third-party stuff there. And while Metroid Prime 4 will certainly serve the hardcore audience, similar to what a Breath of the Wild does, we would also have an EPD4 game, be that a 1-2 Switch, be that a Switch Sports. We always have an EPD4 launch game going back to the Wii, right? You had Wii Sports, you had Nintendo Land, you had 1-2 Switch. You will have an EPD4 developed game alongside whatever the more core title is. Whether or not that's Mario Kart, 3D Mario, or Metroid Prime 4, you can basically guarantee that there will be something more casual there that will, in all reality, probably sell more than Metroid Prime 4. Switch Sports Resort would absolutely sell more than Metroid Prime 4 will Lifetime. That is just the reality of it. So through that thinking, yeah, Switch Sports Resort, I guess, would be the launch title, right? Like, that's the major one. It would do really well in Japan. But having both of those things, having a Metroid game and a Switch Sports Resort, that is a double-decker hit, man. That would be awesome. Especially if we're talking about a March launch. I mean, let's say this thing releases on Thursday the 6th, right? March 6th. Very early in March, right around when the Switch release, same week, right? That's exactly 2 months after the reveal we're talking about, actually. Let's say it releases on March 6th. Then 2 weeks later, on March 20th, you have the release of Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is also a Switch 1 game, but would really benefit from the sales of the Switch releasing in early March. Then in April, maybe that's when you get Mario Kart, but actually I think it'd be smarter for them to use another Switch 1 game at that time. Maybe that's Kirby, Planet Robobot we're hearing about. Maybe that's the Fire Emblem 4 remake we've been waiting for so long. And then in May, which has become a pretty big month for Nintendo releases, right? You always think about March and November as like big months for Nintendo games. October is one of those. May really has become that as well. I mean, in 2023, we had Tears of the Kingdom. We've had Xenoblade Definitive Edition there, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Like, May has become a pretty big month for Nintendo releases. I mean, even going back to the Wii U, Mario Kart 8 and Splatoon both release in May of their respective release years. So maybe May is when we see Mario Kart 10. And then over the summer, you have more casual stuff. Maybe you get a Splatoon or Animal Crossing in there, whichever one's coming first. And then over the summer, as they already have a lot of that casual stuff out, like Splatoon and Mario Kart and Switch Sports, maybe you see more hardcore stuff. Maybe you see a new Monolith soft game. Maybe that's unrealistic, but I'm hopeful here. Maybe you have something from Platinum Games. Hopefully they're not, sinking too far to not have a Switch 2 game. You'll certainly have more Switch 1 games, which of course would be playable on Switch 2. I think Yoshi's Woolly World could certainly be one of those, just a random one to throw in there. And then in the holiday period, you have 3D Mario, you have Pokemon Legends EA, which is another Switch 1 game that will be heavily promoted with Switch 2. That's a banger lineup, man, and that is a perfect release cadence, depending on what they actually have to slot in there. Mario Tennis maybe could be in there somewhere. I honestly do think Metroid Prime 4 makes sense as the launch title, and it's something that I was always saying before. I mean, like a year ago, I would do like these debate streams with Andres Restart, and he would be saying like, oh, Prime 4 could be the launch title, Prime 4 could be the launch title, and I was absolutely against that. I was saying there's no way Prime 4 could be the launch title. The reason the reveal to release being so quick worked for the original Switch was because Breath of the Wild had already been marketed for so long. Well, by releasing that Metroid Prime 4 trailer in June, they've actually almost perfectly replicated what happened with Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild's big blowout, where we found out the name of that game, was E3 2016, so June 2016. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond got its title and its first gameplay in June of 2024. And if the Switch 2 releases in March, that's the exact same amount of time in between things. It's a little different here. We haven't actually seen the console yet, but as many others have said at this point, if it's just a more powerful Switch, you don't necessarily need to market it as long, especially if you have Metroid Prime 4, which has been marketed for longer. So I'm pretty convinced at this point. If it's 3D Mario, if it's Mario Kart, that's great as well. As long as all of these things release in year one, frankly, I don't even really care. As long as we're getting all three of these games in a 12-month period, that's a great year for me. I will be happy with any launch title. But I do think, given the current circumstances, Metroid Prime 4 being the launch title is the best case scenario, not just because, I want to play Metroid Prime 4. In fact, I'd rather play 3D Mario, but if we want Metroid Prime to become a bigger series, if we want Metroid to become a bigger Nintendo IP, it being a launch title is a pivotal moment. And while it would sell well no matter what in 2025 as a Switch 2 game, if it's a launch title, that is Nintendo making a statement saying that Metroid Prime, we're making this a thing. Metroid is a thing. We want it to be big. Will it ever be as big as Breath of the Wild? Absolutely not. I would love for that to happen, but I do not think it is likely. However, if it is a launch title, that is them making a statement, and it would help the game sell better than in any other circumstance. no matter what, it being a launch title is its best shots at being a huge success. So I really hope that is the case. Even if I would rather play 3D Mario or Mario Kart on day one, I do want Metroid to have that moment to really prove itself as a franchise. But let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments down below. What do you think of these posts from this Chinese leaker? Do you believe in a January 8th or I guess 7th, depending on time zone, reveal for the Switch 2, a March release? And what do you think of these rumors about Metroid Prime 4 being the launch title for the Switch 2, or at least one of the launch titles for the Switch 2? I know there's a lot of people that disagree with that, but let me know your thoughts. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch 2 news, discussions, theories, speculation, all that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. I was going to have another video today talking about Mario's anniversary, so I guess I'll post that tomorrow, although it's a little dated already because I referenced Christmas Eve in the video, but all these leaks came out, so I'll have that going up tomorrow. And then, yeah, by then we'll probably have more Switch 2 leaks to cover because it just feels like it's nonstop, man. There's just Switch 2 stuff every single day now. So subscribe here, follow me on Twitter, other channel, it's Amiibo. You know what to do. Till next time, folks. Peace.